What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to turn this Himiway Zebra into an all-wheel drive e-bike using the front motor kit from citizenperformance.com. So if you got a fat tire bike like this Himiway Zebra and you've dreamed about dropping a motor in that front wheel, giving it more power for acceleration and for hill climb, I've got just the solution for you. I've got a plug and play kit that'll allow you to do just that. Graft a motor onto the front of your bike, giving it much faster acceleration and a lot more power to climb the hills. So let me show you what's in this kit. All right, here is everything that comes in the kit. It's all designed to work in unison with each other. All the plugs match, and everything you need is right here to get a working motor onto the front of your bike. And it just gets kind of grafted onto the front of your bike as its own separate system, so you won't touch any of your bike's stock wiring at all. The first piece is a 750 watt Hangtech motor that comes already laced into a wheel. This is exactly how you'll receive it. All you need to do is transfer over your tube and your tire and your disc brake. Next is the controller. You get a 45 amp controller. 45 amp controller, that is a big, powerful controller. Also comes with 8 feet of motor wire. So no matter where you mount that controller on your bike, you can mount it to the back of the rear rack. You'll still have plenty of wire to get up to plug into the front motor. Next piece is the wiring harness. This is what goes from your controller up to your display and your throttle and your brake cutoffs. Also give you all those items in the kit. Your display right here, which is the KT LCD 8H display. Also get magnetic brake cutoff sensors. They just get stuck onto your existing brake levers. And then you get a thumb throttle in the kit. And last but not least, a 52 volt, 15 amp hour battery pack that powers this kit. And of course you get a 3 amp battery charger with it as well. So everything you need is right here, all plug and play. But there is one very important piece before I can install this kit, and that is the front forks. This right here is a very powerful motor kit. So you got to ensure that your front forks have a dropout that is strong enough to handle this power. And really the only forks I found that have been strong enough are the RST guide forks, like these right here. I bought these on Amazon for like 130 bucks. There's a couple sites that you can get them on, but you need to have the RST guide fork in order for this motor kit to work. So that's why I chose this bike today, because it does not have these forks. So that's the first step. We're gonna swap on the RST guide forks. I'm gonna show you how to do the fork swap, because you need to have those. Any other fork I've ever tried, if I put this motor into this regular Himiway fork, I'll just break the fork immediately and then I'll go nowhere. On the guide fork, this dropout right here that holds the motor is extra thick and extra robust, and it's been able to handle the torque. So we're gonna have to swap these out. Let's do that first. All right, so let's go ahead and get our fenders and our brakes and our headlight and everything removed off this fork. All right, next I'm gonna take off this wheel and get this thing resting down on the forks. Get this wheel out of the way. All right, now we're gonna get these handlebars off of the steer tube here. So let's loosen up this cap a little bit. We'll loosen up these side bolts. Everything loosened up. There we go. All right. Now we'll be able to just lift these handlebars right off the steer tube. There you go. Slide them out of the way. Leave it hang there like that. So you got all these spacers. Keep track of these. You might need to reuse some or all, or maybe even more, depending on what the new forks look like when they go in there. So we're gonna keep track of all these, this piece as well. Now when you pull these forks out of here, you're gonna need something for the frame to rest on to keep it upright. So you can pile blocks underneath the bottom bracket there. Or I like to use this, I've got this like wheel stand, and I just put a towel over this part of the bar. Seems to work really well. I know most people aren't gonna have this, but you can use whatever you need to prop this frame up. You'll see what I mean as I do this. So I'm gonna lift on the frame, and the forks are just gonna slide right out of here. And there they are. So now you gotta find some way to hold this. So I like to slide this right under like that. And that seems to work for me, but wooden blocks would work too. So this fork right here is the Himiway fork I took off, and this is the RST guide. If I line these up so you can look at the two dropouts, the guide fork is just longer, wider, thicker. It's just kind of more robust in every way. This is gonna hold that motor. This one, I would not trust to hold the motor. I would probably break this one immediately putting that motor in there. So that's why you gotta do the swap. And there's one other, we're about to do the hard part now. The hardest part of swapping out the forks is just changing over this piece right here. And it's gonna be super hard to see, but there's a ring around this fork right now. It's called the crown race. You can see the guide fork doesn't have one on there. So this is the metal piece that kind of seats into your bearings in the head tube. So we got to take this ring off of here and put it onto the guide fork. And that's kind of tough because it's kind of like pressed on there. And it doesn't even look like there's a gap under it, but there is. And we're going to have to find something super thin to get underneath this little ring and pop it off of there. And it usually takes a good 10-15 minutes of working at it to get it off of there. Some of them have a little slit in there, like the Aventon fork, which it came off in like 3 seconds. This one, unfortunately, does not. I'm gonna have to probably put some razor blades under there to pry it up a little bit and then get some screwdrivers under there. I'm sure that, I know they make a tool for this, but I don't do this often enough where I'm gonna go out and buy that tool. So I'll find my own way to get this ring off and I'll show you how I do it. All right, you ready? Let's get this crown race off of this fork. So as I look around the top of it, I can kind of see right here, they put a little gap in there. They built a little gap into the fork. That's nice. Not all of them have that. So I'm gonna start there. I'm gonna try to wedge this screwdriver underneath there and try to pry it up a little bit and see if that gets me started. So let's try that first. Try to do it so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna kind of tap it in there a little bit with my little tiny hammer, and I got underneath it. I was able to get underneath there, and we're just going to pry it up a little bit to get that side going. And now, if you just kind of work away with the little screwdriver around, slowly inch it, millimeter it up, I should say, up the fork. This one's not too bad. I've had ones where I've had to use these, where I'll take old beat up used razor blades, because they're the only thing thin enough to get in between the fork and the ring. But this one, I was able to get this thin little screwdriver in there. So this one's not too bad. And if you got a couple screwdrivers, you can go both sides at a time. I only grabbed one. It'd probably be way easier if I did 2 of these. We're just gonna slowly work this up. And it'll eventually get high enough that it'll start sliding really easy. The steer tube's a little bit thicker at the bottom, which is what kind of holds this ring in place. But once we get it high enough, it'll just slide right off. There we go. Oh, there it is. All right, so now you're good to go. This is what we were trying to get off of there, this little ring. And we got to drop this down onto the new fork. And the other thing you might need is inside this fork is a star nut, right? You got to make sure your new fork has one of those as well, because that's what the top cap is going to screw into. So we might have to see if we got one of those in the guide fork. Let's grab it. All right, so here is our guide fork. And inside this steer tube, there is no star nut. So we're gonna have to put one down in there, and they just look like this right here. I got a whole box of them that I bought on Amazon. I think they're usually a standard size, like 1 1/8" or 28.6 millimeters, something like that. But we'll just drop this down in the tube. That way we got something to screw into. So you might need to buy one of these if you're buying new forks. Keep that in mind. And then we've got our crown race. We're just gonna drop down onto the new fork like that. And then you're gonna have to kind of, hammer it down in a circle so it's nice and flush with the top of the fork. If you don't put this on, your bike won't steer. This is what seats into the bearings and allows it to steer effortlessly. If you don't have that, it's not gonna work. So gotta do this process. All right, I think I got that down on there pretty flush. And you can see I was just kind of tapping it lightly with a screwdriver and a hammer on all sides to get it down flush. The better way to do that, which I didn't have around here in the garage, but if you had like a piece of PVC pipe, you could slide down over here, and that way you'd apply pressure to the ring equally as you're tapping the top of it. That would probably be great. I should probably go get a piece of pipe so I can do that in the future. Good to go. All right, next step, we got to get our star nut down inside the steer tube of this new fork. And a lot of times when you buy these, they'll give you the tool to do this, and it looks like this right here. You'll put the star nut inside the end of it there, and just drop this down over the fork like that, and you whack the top of it with a hammer, and it drives this star nut down inside the steer tube. If they didn't give you one of these, another way to do it is you just take a screwdriver, put it down through the star nut like that, and just drop it right here and whack it with a hammer. It'll go down in there. I've done it that way several times. It works just fine. Sometimes it starts going in a little crooked, but you can kind of even it out by hitting the screwdriver on more of an angle. So that's kind of DIY way to do it if you need to, but since we got this tool, we might as well use it. I've actually never used it. I've only ever done it with the screwdriver. So let's try this instead. All right. And it looks like this piece actually just comes off. Let's take that off. There you go. Well, I drove it down in there pretty deep. I like the screwdriver better because I can see how far I'm driving it down in. Might have to use a longer screw to get this cap to stay on there, but now it's down inside. That's what you're gonna wanna need to do there. And now we're all set. We can put this onto the bike. All right, since I had wiped it all off, I'm gonna add some grease around the top of this crown race just so it slides nice and easy. Now we're gonna put it back into the bike. All right, so now we're gonna take our spacers and start rebuilding this thing a little bit. This one was first on there. And then we're gonna need a couple, at least here. That might do it. Let's check. We'll put our handlebars on to see how much more spacer we need. We're gonna need at least one more on there because we got some sticking out the top. Let's take that off. Put another one on. Slide down. That's pretty close. I need one more real thin one I think would work. All right, I think this super thin one would work. You can get these things on Amazon for like $9. You can get a whole pack of them. So I'm gonna put that tiny one on there. Now my handlebars, I like that better. Top of the steer tube is a little bit down, recessed down in. All right, now we're gonna put our top cap back on there. Tighten that up a little bit. So when you tighten this, this is what's gonna cinch everything together. So you want this reasonably tight or else your forks will be loose and kind of slopping around in there. So tighten this one first and then we'll do the side ones, which keeps the handlebars straight on the tube. All right, the new forks are installed. We are all ready to go. Next step is to take our original disc brake and tube and tire and switch it over to the kit wheel with the motor in it. So let's do that now. All set. All right, now we'll drop our wheel down into the dropouts. All right, we got our wheel dropped down into the front dropouts, and just so you know, it's gonna fit in there nice and snug, but that's what you want. You don't want the axle spinning, but sometimes I'll take a little piece of sandpaper on the inside of that fork dropout just to get rid of some of the paint to allow the axle to slide down in there the whole way. You'll see what I mean as you do it, but it's gonna be nice and tight sliding down in those dropouts. Now I also want to show you how the nuts and the washers and everything go on. So that thick washer is going to be in between the dropout and the motor on each side. You're going to have one of those thick washers like that. The next thing that goes on is this, which is like a torque washer. It's got that tab on it. So that slides on next, and that tab's going to go into the dropout. That's what keeps that axle from moving in there. So that's the next one. Then you have a big flat washer like that. And then you're going to have the axle nut that goes on the end. Just like that, and it's going to be the same thing on both sides. And then I'll probably have another one of these in there too for you, just kind of a cap acorn nut that goes on the end there to kind of finish it off at the end. But that's how all the washers go on. And while we're right here, we might as well reinstall our brake caliper, get that all set up to go. And just like that, we got brand new forks on this Zebra and also a front motor that is all ready to go. Now the next step is to just find out where to mount all the other pieces of the kit. The main thing is going to be the controller. Where do you want to put the controller on your bike? Every bike's going to be different as far as where you mount things. I think on the Zebra, the optimum spot is right here, right underneath the seat like that. I think that's a perfect spot to mount that controller. And I could just like zip tie it to the rack right there, but I'm going to take it just one step further on this install, and I'm going to make a little mounting plate right there out of this piece of ABS plastic I bought on Amazon. All right, well here's my plastic mounting plate that I created. I just kind of laid the plastic on there, traced the shape. It's gonna mount right on the rack like that. I'm just gonna use zip ties to hold it on, and then I'm gonna mount the controller to this plate. So I started with just some double stick tape on the back of the controller. I'm gonna put it on there like that. Put zip ties around the controller through some of those holes, and it's just gonna be mounted on there like that. I think it's gonna work slick and look pretty good. Let's get it on there. All right, we got our controller mounted on there, just like that. Double stick tape in between here to kind of get rid of some of the vibration and help it stick, but it's going nowhere. Super simple and easy. That's all you need. It's on there pretty secure. There you go. Got the plate mounted on there. Sometimes the easiest solutions are just the best ones. So coming out of the controller, you're gonna have these two small orange plugs. One's for pedal assist, which we're not going to use, and the other one's for a taillight, which I'm not going to use, but they're there if you want them. The other long wires that come out, one is the wiring harness that goes up to the display, and the other is the long wire that goes to the front motor. So I tied up all the extra slack of those wires right here on the back of the seat tube. And then I just put them both together and I routed them across here and then up the frame underneath some black Gorilla tape right there. Easiest, quickest way to do it. I mean, I suppose you could get some gray tape and it would blend in a lot better. On a black bike, you can't even really see that. The easiest way to do it right there, they're all run right up here. And then your display wiring harness wires all come out right here. And I'll show you the other side too. The motor wire crosses over. Right here, I got it zip tied to the top of the fork. It comes down and it's zip tied to the fork here and here. Here's your plug, plugs in the front wheel. So there you go, you got plenty of wire to get anywhere that you need. All right, now it's time to get all of our controls mounted. So we'll take off this grip and we'll take off the brake lever. That'll allow us to slide on our thumb throttle. This is gonna be the throttle that runs the front wheel. And then we'll put everything back together there, plug this into our wiring harness, and then we're gonna have to add the display. So there's not really a lot of room here to add the second display. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on this little handlebar extender. Clips right onto the handlebars like that. And I'll be able to mount both the Himiway original display and my kit display side by side right on this handlebar extension. So we'll have plenty of room on the handlebars then for both displays. All right, I got my handlebar extension piece mounted and I'm putting both displays onto it. This one I'm able to get nice and tight. It's got some plastic spacers under there that allow you to clamp down on the bar. The Himiway, this is meant to fit the Himiway handlebar, so it's really big. I'm gonna have to put one of these plastic spacers inside here so you can clamp it down nice and tight on the extension bar, which is thinner. If you don't have these, I mean, you can just use a piece of rubber, like an old popped tube or even tape. You can wrap it around there till you can clamp down nice and tight and get this secure on the bar. So let's do that. All right, we got our display screens mounted side by side nicely, and I did have to slip a little bit of extra rubber spacers under here to get them tight on the handlebar extension. The next step is to put on our magnetic brake cutoffs, and then we'll plug them in right here on these red plugs. And then we'll deal with this bird's nest of wires. You know, the Himiway Zebra wiring wasn't really clean to start with, and now we've kind of doubled the wires up here. So we'll clean up this mess after we get everything hooked up and plugged in. All right, so the kit also comes with two of these. These are magnetic brake cutoff sensors. The plug obviously plugs into your wiring harness, and then this end has a sensor on it with some double stick tape on the back. You just tape it to the base of your brake lever, and then they also come with these little magnets, right? The magnet gets taped onto the actual lever. And then anytime you pull the brake lever, the two separate, break the connection, and it'll prevent your front motor from running anytime you've pulled the brake. Same setup that's on the back. You know, your existing brake lever already has a built-in brake cutoff sensor wire right here. So anytime you pull the brake, it's cutting the back motor. We want it to do the same on the front motor. Anytime we pull that brake, we want the front motor to cut as well. And that's what these are for. So let's get these on there. All right, so when you're finished, it should look something like this. All right, so the last step is to get some power into the system. We've got our 52 volt, 15 amp hour battery pack here. My plan is I'm just gonna put this bag on the rear rack, and then we'll put the battery in the bag. I'll feed the wires out, and I'll be able to connect to my controller right here. They both have an XT60 connector on them. It's all plug and play. So let's get it on there. And I usually put some extra foam inside the bag just to keep the battery from moving around too much in there. All right, folks, we are up and running. This is what the new dashboard looks like. We've got everything related to the stock Himiway Zebra on the right-hand side. So you got your right-hand twist throttle for the rear motor, the button cluster for the rear motor, display for rear motor. On this side, thumb throttle for your front motor, button cluster for front motor, display for front motor. So we're running two completely independent systems on this bike, and people often ask me, well, why don't you combine everything? Why don't you combine the throttles and the displays and the batteries and the pedal assist? And my answer there is, I've kind of designed this kit to be grafted onto the front of any bike. And this way you don't touch any of your bike's stock wiring. You're not chopping up your throttles and your displays and any of that, right? You don't touch any of the stock wiring at all. And I think it's a little bit safer this way. If you've ever ridden an all-wheel drive bike, I've ridden many, and they have a front motor that's very powerful, and if you accidentally turn the pedals while you're making a low-speed turn, that front tire can slip out from under you. It tends to spin a lot. So by not having it connected to the pedal assist, you're never going to have that happen. And by not having it connected to one throttle, you're never going to have that happen. The only time you're ever going to get front wheel power is when you push this throttle. That's it. So I kind of designed it as, this is your turbo boost button. You want fast acceleration? Hit the throttle. You want extra hill climb power for 5 seconds? Just hit the throttle. Now combining displays, again, I don't know what display is going to be on your bike. Not all controllers and displays work together. So to be a universal kit, it's kind of got to have its own separate display. And I like this too, because then I can monitor that as a completely separate system. And combining batteries, again, that is possible. You can wire it up that way, but I mean, on this bike, I'm running a 52 volt battery on the front and a 48 volt battery on the back. So then you're getting into, you need extra parts. You would need a battery balancer at that point. So the reason I've got it set up this way is it's kind of the simplest way to do it, where any average Joe can buy this kit and just graft it onto the front of their bike, and they're not chopping up the bike's wiring at all. And if they want to pull this kit back off and put it on another bike, like I've done 3 different times now, I've used this kit on 3 different bikes, you can do that. And then, you know, if you want to sell your bike, you can sell it as a stock bike and transfer this kit to your new bike. Now it's time to get out there and show you the difference that this kit will make for your bike, and you'll get to see a little bit of how I drive it as well. So let's go do that. All right, there she is, the all-wheel drive Himiway Zebra using my front motor kit. It looks good on there. I think this thing looks tough. Something about putting that motor in the front wheel just makes this thing look mean. So we got our 750 watt geared hub motor in there, all set to go. The brand new forks on there. I did a little bit of wire wrap up here to try to clean this up a little bit. There's just a lot of wires on the bike, and I did my best there to make that look good. We got battery in the rear pack, our controller mounted on our special little mounting plate here. I did clean up the wires on the other side a little bit too. I'll show you that. Let me turn it around. There, we got it turned into the sun so you can see. I did have these wires right here, these motor wire and the display wires coming right underneath the Himiway logo. I didn't like that look. It was kind of covering the logo a little bit. I moved them and put them underneath the frame here and just black taped them to the black battery pack. So they're blended in, you can't even really see them. It hides it so much better. And I don't ever remove my battery packs really, I just charge them on the bike. So it makes sense for me to just move the wires to underneath there. It just looks so much cleaner, I think. But there you go, we are ready to roll. Let me take this thing for a ride and show you how we drive it. We got our dueling displays. Remember, everything for the rear wheel is on the right side, everything for the front wheel is on the left side. So let's get rolling. And most of the time when I'm riding these dual motor creations, I'm riding it mainly in rear wheel drive. I only hit the front throttle whenever I want to boost the power. So that's why I don't have anything connected to like pedal assist. I just don't want the front motor engaging unless I ask it to. So I can be cruising along here, and then if I just want a boost, you punch the front throttle and it takes off like crazy. So some all-wheel drive bikes have a little switch or a button you got to push to get all-wheel drive. You haven't got to do that with this kit. You want rear wheel, you twist here. Your front wheel, you just push your thumb here. You want both, you do them both at the same time. So it's really effortless to switch between the drive modes. You can go rear wheel to front wheel to both. There's no buttons to push. There's no switches to flip. No forgetting what mode you're in. Am I in all-wheel or rear wheel? I can't tell. This one you always know. Now right now I've got this thing tuned up to the max just to show you the performance capabilities of it. So let me do an acceleration. You'll hear the front wheel kind of do a burnout because it's got so much power sent to it right now. It's at full blast, but here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. You just do a rolling burnout to get going. It's a lot more acceleration power. Truthfully, when you add a motor like this on the front of your bike, it is like creating a whole new bike. The experience is not the same at all. There's so much power at your fingertips on demand. Just the push of the throttle and this thing just takes right off. So it definitely is I mean, if you want a power boost, this is the way to do it, man. Holy cow. Now, I mentioned before that I don't recommend that you connect pedal assist or connect your throttles together. And the reason for that is when you're operating at low speeds like this, and let's say I want to do a U-turn, and I start turning around, if I accidentally pedal and that front motor kicks in, or I hit the throttle a little bit and that front motor kicks in, it just wants to, holy cow. See, I almost lost it just trying to show you what I'm doing there. But it can whip out from under you really quick when you're trying to do a low speed turn. So I don't want that front motor really engaging unless I hit that front throttle. That's why I don't connect anything. If you want to do it, there's ways you can do it. I recommend that you don't. Now, I designed this kit to be just kind of a power boost for acceleration or for hill climb power, but it's got the other benefit of if you fully unlock it, you know, and if your current bike, like say you have an Aventon or something like this Himiway that's capped at 24 miles an hour, I can't go any faster than that. But if I hit the front kit, it'll kick in. Now it's pulling me up to 28, 29, 30, 31. There you go. So now, by adding that front kit, you did just increase your top speed capabilities as well. So it's definitely got multiple benefits to it. The biggest thing is just that power, that acceleration power that you can just take off like crazy. I mean, 0 to, we're at 25 right there. That's a big benefit, having that boost. It's so thrilling. That's why I like it so much. And I got a feeling that people are really gonna want this just for the hill climb power. I'm gonna go over here and show you what it can do on a hill as well. But another common question I get asked is how much range is this gonna add? Man, there's no way I can answer that question at all. I don't know how much you're gonna use the front motor and how fast you're gonna suck down that battery and how much you weigh and what terrain you're riding on. I have no idea. I mean, you're adding a 15 amp hour battery pack, 52 volt 15 amp hour. So you're adding whatever that is, 780 watt hours or to this bike, which already has 960 watt hours on it. So yes, it's gonna add some range. How much? Totally depends on you. All right, before I get to this hill, I wanna show you this. So right now, I've got it tuned for full power, basically. I've got that C5 setting in the display. The kit's very programmable, okay? That's why I use this display. It's very programmable. So I've got it tuned to the max right now. If I hit the front throttle from the line, it's just gonna do a huge burnout like this. Okay, because it's tuned for full power. Now, I'm gonna go in the settings now and back it off and show you the difference. All right, so I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna go over to my C5 setting and I'm gonna take it from 10 and put it all the way down to like 1. That'll give me a gradual start. So now, here's the takeoff. See that? It was so smooth, so powerful, and no wheel spin at all. I'll do it again for you here. It totally eliminates the wheel spin when you do that gradual start or slow start. It's a great setting to have in here. Here we go. No spin whatsoever. But I'm gonna tune it back up for the hill because I wanna show you how hard it can kick in on the hill. All right, we're coming up to the hill here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start going up the hill with just the rear motor, the Himiway motor, and then part way up, I'm gonna hit the front throttle and you'll see the difference in hill climb power. Are you ready? So here we go. Rear motor only Himiway motor. Barely getting me off the line there. Getting me up to about, 10 miles an hour or so. So now let's say I need more power up the hill. Hit the front throttle. Go from 9 miles an hour up to 20. Just crushing the hill now. It just like doubled the hill climb power. All right, so here's a little bit of a hill. Let's start with the rear motor. Get going up the hill a little bit. And we're going 13, 14 miles an hour. Now we're on the hill, 14. Let's punch the front throttle. So it pulls us mid-hill from 14 up over 20, 22, 23, still climbing, just That's the power. The two motors up the hill is just a dramatic difference. Now they do make front motor kits that are direct drive motors. You know, you can get a 1500 watt, 1200 watt direct drive motor, and yeah, they're gonna be probably a little faster top end, but they're gonna have like a third of the amount of torque that this 750 geared hub does. That's the difference. That's why I like the geared hubs, because there's so much torque here, and I want acceleration and I want hill climb power. I don't really care about top speed. I can go fast enough. 30's fast enough. You can see it's stable as well. With the direct drives, they had a wobble in them when I put them on. I don't know if I just did something, had something misaligned or what, but I got a nasty wobble when I put that direct drive motor in my front wheel of the Rad. All right, we're in a nice open parking lot here. Let me see if I can get set up with the camera to show you some accelerations. All right, so here's an acceleration using just the Himiway rear motor. 3, 2, 1, go. Here we go, both motors. Probably get a little bit of wheel spin this time. 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, not really. That was pretty good. I might just leave it in that 2 setting. Ramps up a little quicker and I don't get a ton of wheel spin. All right, folks, so what do you think? I think this thing looks pretty sick. But what questions do you got? I mean, as you can see, the kit's not hard to install. Once you get the right forks on there, you know, you saw how to do that. It's not that hard, just take your time. But after you get those on there, it's really just a matter of kind of mounting all the pieces. You know, you mount the controller, mount the battery, get the front wheel on the dropouts, and just plug everything in. There's nothing to do electrical wise. It's all plug and play. So just take your time with it. And honestly, the more time you spend installing this, probably the better and the cleaner it's gonna look. But from this side, you don't really see a whole lot of wiring, just this bundle really right here. And on the other side, you know, I've got it taped underneath the battery pack here. It's a fun little project for someone who's a little bit DIY, kind of like me. I mean, this is a pretty intimidating bike. This thing is big. It's a big frame to start with, and then I've got these giant oversized tires on it. The kit adds about 15 pounds to the bike. This bike's, I think, in the high 80s, close to 90 pounds stock. So, you know, we're now dealing with a 100+ pound bike right now. This thing, it's a bulldozer, man. But you can find these front motor kits at citizenperformance.com. And if you got questions about this, you can drop them in the comments below. Try to answer as quick as I can, or you can email me, info@citizenperformance.com. Maybe pick one of these up, maybe not. There's 2 options, one with battery, one without. Honestly, I would just do the battery one, because you got to have a battery that can handle the draw of my 45 amp controller. All right, let's see if we can't try a little top speed run here. Add in the front motor. Rocket ship boost there. All right, might as well let go of Himiway. It's no longer helping us. So pedaling, 32, 33 pedaling, not bad.